Hello, welcome students of NKT. This is another episode of Test, Don't Guess. I'm excited to have on today Caylon Ellis, who is from Carlsbad. She owns her own office and runs her business through there. And she does massage therapy and is an experienced NKTer who is here today to help us learn more about NKT. So Caylon, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Caylon, I want to start getting into kind of your beginnings with NKT, and I'm curious to know what your first thoughts were when you heard of NKT. How did you hear of it? How did you get into your journey of starting to learn it? Tell me a little bit about that. What was it like for you?
Yeah, so I was first introduced, actually, I was at a kind of a big trade show seminar, and one of the assistants in one of the classes that I was taking, we just kept in contact afterwards, and he mentioned it to me. He said, "Hey, I'm going up to Seattle to take this class. It's called neurokinetic therapy. I think you'd be interested in it." And so I looked it up, started reading about it. I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting," because at that time I'd been doing as clinical style massage and work as I could, but the neurological part had been talked about in some of the things I'd been doing, but I was actually looking for a way to directly address it, and hadn't really come across anything yet that really fit into what I was looking for. So enter just meeting this assistant that I just happened to like, and he happened to tell me about this stuff. And at that time, I was kind of already signed up for this other class. So we're like, all right, we'll both do it and then kind of swap stories and see what we think. So my thing ended up totally falling through. He went through with NKT. And then there's local study groups in my area. So he just reached out to me, and he was coming down for a study group and said, "Hey, do you mind, if you're free, can I use you for a body?" And was like, "Yeah, sure." So showed up, had it done on me, and was like, "What the heck?" I went home and signed up for the level 1 like that day.
Wow,
when
yeah.
I got home. Yeah, because just being able to touch something and like not being able to hold my arm up and then just touching something, and then not only could I hold it up, but it didn't hurt anymore when he was pressing, and just things like little nagging things that just felt better like pretty much instantaneously. It's like, okay, I need to know more about this. So then and at that time, I just was reading like everything that I could find on the website, like all of David's blogs and things like that. So so signed up, and here I am.
Yeah.
Obviously I continued.
Yeah. Now wait, how long ago was that when that whole situation happened where you were exposed to it?
Yeah, so that was in 2014. That was
2014.
probably, yeah, I think, I can't remember exactly when the class was in San Diego that I met the TA that told me about NKT, because a few months were passed in between before there was a class available, but it was the end of September of 2014 that I took my level 1. Mm-hmm.
So then you took your level 1, and then how much time was it between taking like level 2 and level 3, and then what were kind of the like learning progression going into those further levels?
Yeah, so after level 1, I took that at the end of September. I took level 2 of 2014. I took level 2 like right around Halloween time, I think. So basically a month later in 2014.
Okay. Wow, fast.
Fast, yeah. And then I took level 3 in May of 2015. I decided to wait on the January one because I know there was a level 3 in January of 2015. And for whatever reason, I just felt like I don't know, I didn't want to do it then. I wanted to wait. So I waited until May. And progression-wise, like after level 1, I was like, this is awesome. Like, I totally get it. Like, felt like a rock star. And then I took level 2 and felt like, I don't know, like I had a hard time with level 2 for some reason. But then I just went into level 3, and then everything kind of made sense for me again. So I feel like from what I hear when assisting or doing study groups is that people tend to either like their mind is blown up at level 1 and then it all makes sense in level 2, or like makes sense. And then so people have different journeys. But for me personally, level 2 was like kind of messed with me a little bit. But then it got back going with level 3, and then I was like, oh, like everything makes sense.
Yeah. What was like the hardest thing then? Like if level 1 seemed really easy, what were some of like the hardest concepts that you just had to get over those hurdles, and how did you figure those out?
As far as level 1 goes, or for the level 2?
In both, either one.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of it was learning how to get so much information quickly, because I think that being like basically fire hosed with all this information that's so cool. And it's like, I don't know other people's experiences, but for me, I'd never seen anything like this before. And I'd been looking for something like this and just thinking like, is this real? Like, does this actually work? And just so much information. There's so many tests, and coming out of level 1, just thinking, well, how do I apply all of this stuff to someone? How do I know what to do with somebody? And I went through a phase where it was like, I like wouldn't touch or do any release or do anything unless I tested it. And then it's like, but I can't even remember this test. How do I test the scalings again? And it just kind of like give myself anxiety almost of trying to just like do everything, and just getting kind of overwhelming myself. So my level 2 experience was challenging because I had personally quite actually repeated limbic experiences, and I'd never felt anything like that before. So it confused me and made it hard to pay attention and learn when my brain was just kind of processing a lot of things. But it ended up being a really good experience because going forward, working with people, when that comes up in session, I can relate to it because I understand, because it's happened to me, and kind of have a better read on what to do, and noticing when things like that come up, which can be useful. And depending on what your background is, you may or may not have the tools to work with. If you do, it's great. You can keep going down that road if it's safe for the client. But if not, being able to recognize kind of when those things happen, and if you don't feel like, if it's out of scope for you or you don't feel comfortable with it, seeing it happening and kind of having some ways to sort of dial it back or calm things down a little bit can be helpful. And that, so for me, that was a good learning experience, but it made it hard for me to actually learn the material because I had all of that stuff going on during my level 2.
Mm-hmm. What did your practice look like before you ever started NKT to now that you have gone through all the levels and you have all the experience you have in NKT? What are the big differences in your own work from then to now?
I think the biggest difference is that I actually have a practice now. At that time, I was still not really sure if I was going to go down this road. I'm kind of notorious for learning about things, and then once I learn it, then it's like, okay, now what? You know, that was interesting, but I learned it. And there's kind of, once you learn something, there's not really much to learn. But I realize with this, it's like there's no end to learning about the body and the nervous system and all the intricacies of all of this. So I pretty much tell people, like, if I get bored, I'm either lazy or a genius, and like, I'm neither one of those is going to happen. So yeah, it's pretty much went from just seeing people that found me, never really advertising myself, and helping people that I came across through some of the volunteering that I did in massage school and things like that. And, but wanting to help people and kind of getting exposed to more people through some roundabout ways, and just wanting more tools to help them. So I pretty much went from that to actually having my own business, having my own office space that's all mine. Wow. People that come to me just for this type of work. I have a client up in LA that I go up and see every weekend that I'm around and available, and go up like just for this type of work. So so it's trying to spread the good word and educate people that come in, and they tell people that usually the type of people that come to see me they're either trying to avoid surgery or pills or drugs or something like that, or they want to get to the bottom of what's going on. They've done other types of therapies and just feel like there's still some kind of root reason, and they don't really know what it is, and they were told to let me do my thing. And they're coached by people that get referred to me. It's like, oh yeah, you know, you have to try this. So people come to me just know what this is, but based on like being just referred word of mouth, they already pretty much trust me, and they're curious and interested and want to get to the bottom of things, which makes those kinds of challenges easier for me because I don't have to sell people as much or convince them. Like, they're already excited to learn about it, and it's more of like, all right, here we go, let's go down this road. Yeah, those are my favorite. When somebody comes into your office, like, how much of your session is NKT? I mean, I'm sure you do some other things with your NKT, but
is that like the entirety of your session? Is it just a small snippet? Do you only do that in certain sessions with certain people? How much of your sessions are actually using NKT and implementing it?
Yeah, so I pretty much use it in every session. There's only one client that I really don't use it for, and that's just because he's a Vietnam vet, PTSD, the one person that I actually do massage with, like just straight massage. But every now and then when he has something going on, wants to explore it, then I'll do very limited testing, just because I find that with some people that are really kind of like ramped up, just testing and doing and thinking things just kind of gets them a little more. So just for him personally, just zoning out is like a good thing. But for everybody else, I use it with everyone, unless there are considerations like trying to test. They're just in so much pain that have to kind of sort that out before being able to actually do testing, which I think I've only had that happen once, maybe twice, but one person in particular that I couldn't do any testing on her that day, any direct testing, even indirect. Just because any movement, anything was just so painful. So I had to just switch gears and just do some other things to kind of calm stuff down, so that I'd be able to test at a later date. But yeah, it just depends. Like some people, I don't know, just have a lot of tissue stuff going on. So I have to do more kind of tissue work, and then sort things out with NKT testing. Yeah, it's absolutely something I deal with every person, but the ratio, it just depends on the person walking through the door and what they need.
And then when you do NKT, or how much of your session are you actually doing the NKT versus doing the correctives afterwards, or maybe talking to them before, doing other assessments? How much are you doing NKT within that session? Is it all NKT? What does it look like?
Yeah, so I mean, when I started, I was definitely like all NKT. Like I abandoned anything I ever knew, was like doing all NKT and testing everything, and every single thing I did was like a test and find this facility, not inhibited and released. And I've realized that I don't work like that anymore. But when you're first learning and like so much information and so much stuff, you can kind of do all of that. And what I find to be more useful is really strategically picking what I want to test based on what I feel, what I see moving, what they're complaining to me about as far as what's symptomatic, and really target those areas. So what I've learned how to do and find to be really effective is that the more you get comfortable with it and the more you do it, the easier it is to be able to really zone in on what you know you want to address, and to do fewer corrections, but sort out which ones you know are going to be a big deal and focus on those. So I'm not like just like testing like 15 things and finding all of these things and releasing, and then like, oh my gosh, which one do I give them for? There's so many things that it's just much more targeted. So I would say, as far as the question goes, like doing NKT, meaning like finding a facilitated, inhibited, and released, and all of that, and going through the whole protocol, I do less corrections just because of the learning process of going through all of the levels and having all of the tools that you get going all the way through. I'm able to more target what's going to be a bigger deal and have basically some wiggle room to just do some stuff that feels good for people. And because people like that, they like, tissue release and stuff that feels good. So, and that's the great thing about NKT as well, is that that you have a way to check and see, like, well, is this something that they want me to release? Like, should I actually be releasing this, or should I release this guy and then activate this, and then just kind of like rub it to make it feel good and kind of keep them happy. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. So that leads me to another question here. At what point do you say, okay, I've done enough tests and now I'm ready to start doing some corrections with people? When is like your stopping point with somebody that, okay, I found 5 relationships, that's too much, or that's all I need, or I found like the one relationship, it was only one thing that I found, now I'm ready to stop with the testing and start the correctives? At what point do you kind of draw that line where you say, okay, I don't need to do the testing, I can move on now, like the testing was enough?
Okay, so, well, I guess I probably started out working that way, and like testing, I have to sort all this stuff out before I know what to do. And like all of my information that I was gathering was all through testing. How's this testing? Which again, I think led to me overwhelming myself. But now kind of don't really work like that. I'll go back and forth more. I have a larger goal of, okay, what is this person coming to see me for? Let's just say their shoulder hurts. So their shoulder hurts, you look at their range, it's about their tissue just feels like really gunky. So I'm taking all of that into consideration, thinking like, all right, based on feel, based on like, are they like moving up like this? Like, all right, upper trap dominant. Okay, definitely want to look at that. Are things just stuck and glued together? Using all of that information to really, again, hone in on what test do I want to do? So based on feel and I guess just like palpation and experience, I guess, start with something as far as whatever seems to be the most relevant and kind of the first in line thing as far as what to test. So test it, go down whatever road that takes me, and just keep rechecking and reassessing. Like, all right, stand up, move around. Let's see what that movement looks like. Let's see what the tissue feels like. And sometimes, it's like, even though that's their complaint, things actually feel kind of okay, but you can see something going on with the other hip or something like that that's kind of tying in. So then you can tie in and test those things and show them so they can feel in their body like, wow, all of a sudden, like my shoulder raises fine when I'm touching my hip, or, when you've done this other thing with my hip. So it kind of, I don't like just test and then like just do the releases. It's just bouncing back and forth during the session based on what I feel and based on how things are changing. But for me, my like goal basically is have to get the joints properly, bring the motion in the joints. The tissues around the joints have to feel good, and they have to test normal neurologically. And the order in which I approach those things changes. It just depends on, like I said, the individual person, what I'm feeling, what they're telling me, how things change and progress. And so I'm able to kind of figure out now, like, all right, well, I need to do some tissue work, and then this is going to test better, and that just sorts this out. And now we can actually do more testing. So it just changes with every person. But that's part of the like kind of entire progression, I think, of going through the levels of NKT and then just being able to use and practice more, is getting to that point where you kind of come up with your own system, so that you don't feel like you have to follow rules like, I have to test this and then I have to release it and I do this at this portion and this at that portion. I think that the more you've been doing this, like the more you're able to kind of move away from that and really just bounce around when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.